What is the story behind V-Shesh?
Employment is the litmus test of inclusion for us, always has been. So we've been singularly focused on seeing what we can do to clear the barriers for an individual so that the individual is closer to the job. And in that journey, we have met you from Trinayani's journey, Enable India, Samarthanam, many, Poonamaka from Vidyasagar. Everyone has been a guru for us, and we've learned and we've improvised. So when we started, actually, frankly, we didn't start with disability. We started, me and my co-founder Shashank, we go a long way. We studied together in our MBA some 20 years back, I think now. We thought we should do something where our hearts and mind meet. So we picked something, we thought we should solve a societal problem, but using a business model, because that's what we knew. We're both MBA students and worked in corporate, so we knew how businesses operate. But businesses operate to solve a problem, but not necessarily a societal problem. We picked a societal problem. For us, the problem we picked was for someone to get the first job is generally difficult for most people, but for people from disadvantaged backgrounds, be it a first generation girl graduate, or an HIV affected person, or a person from the LGBTQ community, or a person with disability, getting the first job is immensely difficult. So we thought we should try and build a platform. We had no clue what the platform will be. Even now we are evolving that platform, to be honest. At that time we had absolutely no clue. We thought we should build a platform where we can make this a level playing field. It should not be an ovarian lottery. Where I am born should not determine what kind of job is. The talent should really meet the employment market in level playing terms. That was the central theme of which we started. So we started with actually rural areas, like we started with setting up a center in Varanasi. It was only because a client told us, we'll pay you for our service if you provide us trained people from rural areas. In Eastern UP, Western Bihar, you can source, and the model came clear that we train them so that they know what job they are getting into. And that's where the semblance of our model also came. It is not a demand and supply issue. It's about employment gap, or the gap between the individuals wanting to seek a job, the job seekers, and the employees wanting to give job but not finding them, or not finding the right talent, or if they find, they're quitting earlier than they would desire. The entire ROI for hiring for the employer and the individuals getting the right job. So we thought the semblance of the model started evolving, saying we got to have them both speak to each other. That helped us understand what a good model would be. It's not a simple demand and supply, which we actually utterly failed when we started. And we did this work with, we expanded. This was very successful. We reduced the ROI for companies. They had a turnover, employee turnover of around 40-50%. We got them to 2 to 3%. Only for government jobs people would quit. So, and this went on very well for 6, 7, 8 months. Scaling up. All the microfinance companies that we worked with, they were ready to want to sign up with us. We were doing 20 jobs where we started in 2008. We started delivering 100 jobs a month, and we had signed contracts of 300 jobs a month. Then suddenly the microfinance crisis in AP happened, and everything came to a standstill. But luckily, so we will owe people with disabilities and the sector a huge thanks for V-Shesh's existence. And it is then we started working with organizations like Enable India. They were a fantastic job of training. We said, can we do some work with you to see if we can also place some people from there? And me and my colleague Shashank and some of our team members, we did the job. We could reach out to companies because we know the language of the companies. We had friends there. We could speak to them and said, okay, can you, and that is where our interactions with individuals, like I still can say, of course, Shanti and Deepesh, but Vidya, who was there in Enable India, we learnt about disabilities totally by interacting with them. Absolutely the nuts and bolts, understanding what is the entire ability factor that I can talk about today. But we learnt it in action by interacting with the team there, and then we got success placing a couple of people. And then when this sector went down, the sector that we went down and we had no contracts, and all the database that we had built, all of them, 6 months, they're all stale. So one of my colleagues, Rashi, who is also a founding team member, she's now in Delhi, she told Shashank, Raja, why don't we do the same thing with people with disabilities? We just have to train people, we have to look at potential employers, and we can do the same thing. Okay, well, let's try. And that's where we started, and with 5 people, mostly with mobility. They were all with mobility impairment, and it worked well. By the time we could train them, we could place them in some good companies, and the model was working. Then seeing our success of getting people to jobs, deaf people came to our center, and we had no clue of what is deafness, what is sign language, why deaf people have a challenge with language, all of that which we know now, we had absolutely no clue. But only thing that we saw is a person came into our office and said, you got this person a job, I got to know about it, why can't you get me a job? And I said, okay, what have you studied? And we didn't know sign language. The person wrote, studied MCOM, what are we doing? I'm working in a shop cutting vegetables. That completely shook all of us. And I had another colleague, Joseph, who had joined. This Joseph, Rashi, Smriti, me and Shashank were the first 4 or 5 employees. It completely shook us and said, we have to do something here. And immediately called or said, what do we do? He said, how many of you are there? 3, 4 people. He said, no, I have lots of people are like this, like me. So they all came. They said, how many can you get in how many days? In 2 weeks, we'll assemble at your office. In 2 weeks, 10 of them came to V-Shesh. And then how do we train them now? Then Rashi said, okay, let's call, check with Enable India if they have some trainers and interpreters. And said, okay, we have a person, one of our first employees we hired, Alafia, she was moving to Bangalore. And would you want to have her? She can work as an interpreter. Okay, we had Alafia joined us then, and then the story of we trained them. Then what happened is after we trained, again the same thing of talking to companies and convincing them to employ. Once they said yes, we are ready. Then we said, okay, the skill level is there. When it is very obvious, the talent is obviously there. It took us very little, small, simple things of what is workplace, what is an organization, and employability skills, and they were ready to face the interviews, and they all aced their interviews. There's a lot of inventory of very skilled people waiting to get jobs. So very little to our credit, but more to the talent that was already there. And they got jobs. Once they got a job, that the company said, okay, we have taken them, now who will train them? That is when we said, okay, my colleague Joseph, he went there, was with the deaf people, learnt signs from them. It was a night shift, so Alafia couldn't go and Joseph had to go. He learned signs from them. In fact, Shakir, who is one of the deaf employees who works with India Post now, he's the guru for us in showing what can be done at the workplace as a job coach. And later on I read this is a service that companies offer for etc. But at that time we developed a job coach. And after that they said, okay, we also want to be trained about little communication, teach us basic sign language. And then we did some sign language training for the other team members. So basically, Ritika, what we did was we responded to what the clients want, which is companies want, and what individuals want. And over a period, we remained focused to our mission of employment and kept on adding to our services, and a package of services kept on developing over a period of time. And that's the story of V-Shesh. Yeah. We continued the same story.
How do you assess the skills of persons with disabilities and match them to suitable job opportunities?
Fundamentally, when an individual with disability comes to V-Shesh, for a counseling or a career guidance or training, we are a team of 50 spread across Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Chennai, and we have frontline team members who become confident, disability confident, interacting and building that rapport. So we look at what is the impairment of the individual, and for that we need to provide accommodations for attending a test or attending interviews, or when it gets to the jobs, there's an accommodation. So there is an impairment of the individual for which accommodations is required. The second element is understanding the skill level of the individual, and that's nothing to do with the disability. It is the skill. So know where the person stands in terms of English language, or proficiency in numeracy skills, or proficiency in use of computers. Basic proficiency test we do conduct, and we don't match impairments to jobs or disability to jobs. We match individual skills to what the job demands. Okay, so once we assess and we are comfortable with the skill level, we then show these are the jobs that are available. There's a job which requires content moderation, looking at videos and understanding the English content and editing and being able to give inputs there. Or there is a job in IT which requires you to do software testing or programming. And if the person has the skill, we say, yes, you have. We know also broadly. Sometimes the person may not have the skill, may have an aspiration. We have to do that moderation, etc. Then if it doesn't have, nobody says, yes, I can do it. Okay, the market is there. You please go for that interview. If you don't, we also have our training programs to improve the skill level of that individual. So that's how we operate. So we essentially segregate the individual's disability or impairment for accommodation. And the skill is like anyone else, a person with disability is like anyone else, can get jobs based on their own skills.
What was the initial reaction of the companies you approached regarding your organization's service model and charges?
When we started off 15 years back, we offered this as a service. We thought it's like any other service. Anyone should find value in our service, in our offering. So we approached companies saying, okay, we have trained pool, will you employ them? And this is our service fee. The company said, hey, just a second, you're saying you're going to employ from you, I'm doing you a favor, and employ a person with disability, I'm also doing another favor, and then you're saying you will charge me for this? Are you for real? That was the question about 15 years back. But we had complete confidence in the individual's talent, So I knew that there is a gap. There is a complete gap of awareness. So we said, we had complete confidence in the individuals. We said, okay, don't pay us now. Please hire. Please, 3 months later, you will see the productivity, everything coming into play. Pay us later after 3 months. If it is fine, you pay us. If it is not, you don't. That they agreed, because they don't have to pay us instantly. Then after 3 months, we followed up. We usually, with every placement, we follow up with the candidate as well as the SPOC in the employer. We followed up and said, yes, excellent, they are very good. Then like you pay most of your other talent hires, you pay us also. For us, it was about giving a good service, being accountable to the clients whom we are servicing, so that we can challenge ourselves and keep improving as a team. And also it brings the central focus to an individual whom we are servicing. We are servicing the individual here for jobs, and for all of us to think to every part of our work in whatever we do sensitization, we do policy change, we work on workshops for audits, we do access audits as well. Everything we do is to clear the path for a person with disability to get a job. So the mission is very, very clear. If we stop understanding what a person requires in terms of accessing a job, we will stop, our wishes will have to shut down. So it made us very, very clear that our ultimate goal is to improve the odds of a person getting a job. So we were and it took us about 6 months, 8 months to get companies to figure out that yes, there is a value in this service, and over a period of time, they now recognize, and we built a range of service offerings which they see value and pay us.
Does your organization charge a fee to persons with disabilities for training and employment services?
For us, persons with disability is also our customer, but we don't charge them a service. Like Facebook never charges its customers, but is accountable to the customer. We are also fully accountable. Our team is fully accountable, because as I said earlier, we will shut shop if we don't serve a person with disability. And why we don't charge is employment. We are promising training and employment. Okay. Now, a lot of them come to us with the hope of employment. Their final outcome, what they see is, I do something with V-Shesh. I like what they do. We engage. We probably move our skill, to some extent. But finally, they're going to measure on whether I get a job or not. And getting a job is not entirely within V-Shesh's ambit. There is employers. The sensitization, the employers may or may not be ready. Readiness of the employment is very, very different. Of course, there's fluctuations in the employment market. The employer readiness is also far. So, from an affordability angle, from the uncertainty to getting a job, and weighing all these factors in mind, we decided not to charge. It's definitely not something like a person with disability cannot pay for our service. It's only because of the uncertainty of connecting with a job, we thought best not to charge. There are exceptions in our work. We are not saying we should not charge a person with disability. I mean there is people with disabilities are also can also afford. They can get a job, they earn, they pay tax, and they can return. They can also afford such services. But because of the uncertainty that associated with an employment, we were not charging. But some exceptions, there are individuals and families especially, and in especially neurodivergent conditions where they want to have their children, students or adults, young adults ready for the job market, and they come to us with a very specific ask of getting trained on XYZ skills. The clear ask is skills for getting ready to a job. They say financial literacy, coming and going to office, other executive functioning, please train us. There we do charge, and we offer scholarships for people who are not able to afford the fees.
Does V-Shesh specialize in any particular sector for employing individuals with disabilities?
Ideally, we would like to focus on all sectors, but we have been focusing on sectors where there is a demand, where the employers are more ready, more progressive, I would say, using the word progressive from a sense of including persons with disabilities. So, IT has been at the forefront, and banking has been at the forefront. A few examples in manufacturing, and then hospitality and retail. These are the 4 sectors, and a little bit of trickle in manufacturing, in aviation, etc.
What are your views on providing reasonable accommodations in the workplace for people with disabilities?
When it comes to disability accommodation, most companies have a fear of the unknown, of what they are wanting to get into. They don't know what they have to provide for. And then there is also the cost factor, but it is not that big a factor. Just for statistics, I can say that, from whatever placements we do some 1,000 odd numbers every year, 70 odd % do not need any accommodation. So there's no cost involved at all. The rest 30, the costs are so less. So cost is not that big a factor. So all that we try and do when it comes to accommodation is very clearly calling out, this is what they need. They need a different keyboard or a different type of a mouse or an adjustable desk, and then say, oh, this is all they need. Are you sure this is all they need? Yes. Most importantly, they will need this as an accommodation, and then your sensitivity to hear to them. They may ask some smaller things. I'll need a break. You shouldn't think, oh, I've provided this, I need this also and this also. That should not be the factor. Once you have that sensitivity and listening approach towards an employee, it's what you need for every employee. This is a talent that is coming in. If you're being sensitive and giving that opportunity for them to speak up and listen, things start falling in place. So that's my theory on accommodations.